How do you define greatness?
I've never been asked that question. For me, greatness is the athlete who is having more fun than any other player in the biggest game. And I'll give you an example.
Wayne Gretzky, everybody!
Thank you.
So, Wayne, I feel like there's missing something here. Like, I don't know what, I mean, it seems it's like having like furniture and you're missing something. So I thought I'd bring something else that only a few people in the world would feel comfortable, but especially you. So, Jonathan, can you bring up exactly maybe the thing, that stuff like that? Ladies and gentlemen, the Stanley Cup replica.
All right. I like it.
Now, how does it feel now? Do you feel better?
I like the white gloves. Pretty cool.
Well, it was a Michael Jackson.
It
was a Michael Jackson outfit, and then we just took the gloves from that.
Honestly, I was feeling good before it came out, but now I feel really good. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here.
I got to tell you, I travel all over North America and parts of the world. I take pride in being early. I like to get there early all the time. I guess that's my training, being a hockey player. Bus leaves at 5, you get on at 4:30. And I live 10 minutes from here, and I'm late for this. Makes no sense, so I apologize.
It's because of the weather.
We ended up going the wrong way in Okeechobee. I wasn't paying attention, and so I'm sorry we're a little bit
You want
late.
to hear something funny? So I ordered a bunch of stuff because obviously last minute I was traveling to Australia, and I came back, and I put the wrong address. And literally...
So you're the reason I got here late.
Well, I didn't give you the wrong address, but let's just say the Amazon store stopped. The people were inundated by Wayne Gretzky stuff that did not get there. And so, because they show you the picture on Amazon and there's like a statue, there's everything. I mean, so these people are the happiest. They don't know why, but at this address, they have all the Wayne Gretzky stuff as well. So
that's pretty cool. Well, you know, last year, for those of you who follow hockey, the Florida Panthers had a great run, got to the Stanley Cup Finals. So they've done a great job of helping grow the sport of hockey in this area. And it was exciting for the people who lived around here. So many people stopping me and wanting to talk hockey. So it's great to see our sport growing and expanding. And it's exciting for everyone who's involved in our game.
So, Wayne, Michael Jordan, very similar to you, won everything and then sort of recluse from the public eye. Mm-hmm. And, NBA team kind of did his thing. You kind of like did the opposite. You're very involved in the public, commercials, involved with charities, involved in business, and very much of a public face. Mm-hmm. And everyone wanted a piece of you, in Canada still to this day. How do you still have that same love for people?
Yeah. Well, let me say this. People ask me all the time, do I still have that competitive spirit I had when I played hockey? My wife and I play a lot of golf together. I play a lot of golf with our friends. Up until a couple of years ago, we played a lot of tennis. But I really never had that. The cliche goes that Michael Jordan loves to win in everything he does. I don't have that same sort of attitude. I did all that from the age of 6 years old, I guess, till 39 when I retired. I love to watch the game. Everything I have in my life is because of hockey, and I love to be around it. I'm fortunate enough to be involved with a great group at TNT and still be kind of active in the game without having to stress out and worry about wins and losses. And then I've been lucky, the people I met in my life, from athletes to sports people to great businessmen. And I've been fortunate enough to meet some of the greatest people you could ever meet, and lucky enough to meet some of the greatest people you can ever meet. So I still have fun. I enjoy people. I enjoy talking to people. My wife says I'm like a garbage can. You step on my foot and my mouth opens. But I can talk hockey all day long. It's everything I have in my life. It's because of hockey. The people I've met, the memories I have. When I started playing hockey, I was a young kid, and it was a big world. And for those of you who know Canada at all, to go from Brantford, Ontario to Vancouver was like going to the other side of the world. And I always dreamed as a kid one day I would get to see parts of Canada, from Newfoundland to Alberta to British Columbia. And because of hockey, that was all possible for me. And I'm very lucky. I had great supporting parents, and great family, and I was lucky enough, and that gave me an opportunity to become Wayne Gretzky and do the things I got to do.
Were you the same way when you were playing, scoring so many goals, media attention, as friendly, open to everyone because you say yes a lot and you give yourself, or were you the same way? Or did that happen once you retired and the wisdom kicked in? Or were the exact same person you were when you were playing?
I think I was pretty much the same. It's like anything else, the older you get, the more mature you become. I look back at some of the interviews I did at 17, 18, 19, and I wonder, okay, would I have said something different if today I was asked that same question? But no, I was pretty open-minded and pretty much an open book with the media. My dad used to tell me all the time that, they have a responsibility and a job to do too, and make sure you have your head up and you're talking into a camera, that you're talking to the fans and to people. They want to hear what you have to say. So, no, I think I'm pretty much the same person as I was when I first started.
How do you define greatness, whether we're talking about hockey or we're talking about business or we're talking about doing our job? How do you?
How do I?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I've never been asked that question. Well, let me put it this way. Like all of you all, you kind of follow some people in the business world, and whether it's male or female, and go, wow, that's pretty impressive. I'm very intrigued by what that person has accomplished and what they're doing. And then I look at sports, and I'm a huge sports fan, and I'm lucky my wife is too, and our whole family is. And we watch golf together, we watch tennis, basketball, football, hockey. It consumes our life. That's what we love, right? And so for me, defining greatness is the athlete who is having more fun than any other player in the biggest game. And I'll give you an example. When I watched the NFL Super Bowl last year, when Patrick Mahomes is on the field, it just looks like he's having fun, even though he's under the microscope and under more pressure than anybody. When I used to watch Magic Johnson and Larry Bird play Game 7s, those two guys looked like they were having more fun than everyone else. And yet they were still dominant and very successful. And so I really embrace and rally around great athletes who excel and are successful in the biggest games, and that they're having a lot of fun, and yet they're still the best player or best athlete out there.
I've never heard you, and I've looked at a lot of tape. Do you consider yourself the GOAT of hockey?
No.
Why not?
Well, first of all, how do you define eras of the sport, right? And I grew up, I have so much respect for the game. And let me start from today and move backwards. And you look at the new kids who've come in, like Connor Bedard in Chicago, who's going to be just a tremendous, young, good hockey player. And then you look at guys like Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. And then you go back to guys like Alex Ovechkin and Crosby. And then you got guys like Lemieux and Messier.
Jagger.
And then Jagger. And then you go back to that, you got Mike Bossy and Guy Lafleur. And you go back to that. And to me, because I was a kid, the two greatest players to ever play were Bobby Orr and Gordie Howe. They're two of the nicer men that I've ever met in my life. They were a big part of my life for a lot of years. And I have so much respect for the game. And that's what makes sports fun, right? You sit around, who's the greatest player, who's the best team, and nobody has a definitive answer to that, right? It's what you're objective to. And so I just have too much respect for the game and the players who made the game what it is today. And guys like Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr, to me, were the guys that did that.
So, I've talked to the likes of Brady, Messi, some of the greats at what they do, and there's an obsession.
Right.
I've never talked to Michael Jordan, but if you watch the documentary series, The Last Dance, there was an obsession. Something drive them, whether it just was never good enough. Definition of Tom Brady. What's my favorite ring? The next one, the one I haven't won yet. Do you have, or did you have that obsession?
Yeah.
And can you give us examples of that obsession?
Well, people would always say, do you set a goal for how many goals you're going to get, or how many assists, or how many points? And I'd always say no. I just want to be better than I was the last game, the last month, the last year. And that's what drove me. It wasn't what I had accomplished. It was what I wanted to accomplish that really drove me. I wanted to be better. And I think one of the things I always tell parents, practice and preparation is so important. Like, people think because Tom Brady won and Michael Jordan won, that they were just naturally gifted and naturally talented and the good Lord blessed them. And trust me, they did. But if you ever went to practices, my wife and I got to see the Bulls practice in '96 one year in New York, and I was more amazed at how hard they practiced and how hard he was practicing than actually watching him at the game that night. So I think that's one of the great things about the best athletes is that their commitment to excellence is dedication and hard work. Their life is consumed by what they're doing. And I say this often to people. To be a great athlete, and I mean this with great deal of respect to anybody, you got to be really selfish because your commitment has to be to your job and to your sport. And just as important as that is, the people who are around you, whether it's your mom and dad, your wife, your kids, they have to have that understanding that during that season, that's your focus and commitment. And everybody has to be on the same page. And I was lucky enough. I had a great family and had a wife and had parents that understood that. And quite honestly, during the season, I was a pretty selfish guy. But there was a reason for that. I wanted to be the best athlete I could be.
So, Wayne, I have 6 fans. And for me to be here growing up, and I told you the story, my father never believed in me, and I was telling you backstage. And my parents never said that. I didn't have that sort of like your father, which I think there's one of the questions that people have, your relationship with him.
My father was unique because he never one time in my life did he ever say, you're going to be a great hockey player, or you're going to...
Did he ever tell you weren't going to make it? And
no, he never said that. He always said to me, though, you better not miss one class at school because, you never know when hockey's going to be over, whether through injury or you lose interest or whatever, so you better go to school. So he more harped on that than hockey. People around me would say things, but my dad never one time ever said he's a can't miss or he's going to make it. He'd always encourage me and tell me, listen, whatever reason, the good Lord blessed you with a love and passion like I've never seen. Because I used to skate 8, 10, 11 hours a day at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old. And, I always tell people this, mothers are the strongest. And my mother was no different. So I get mothers that come up to me all the time, Wayne, can I ask you a couple questions? And I'm always like, yeah, it's okay. My mom did the same thing, chasing the hockey players, asking questions for me and get autographs. So I get it. But they'll come up to me and they'll say, we tell my son how many hours a day he used to practice and how many hours a day he should practice. And I always say the same thing. I never thought I was practicing. I'm not going to tell your son. And it's the same in anything, whether you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, a businessman, a musician, an athlete. The people who want to, I'm not here, people who want to do it, they put that time in because they love it, not because they think, oh gosh, I'm practicing hard today. That was never it for me. I started skating when I was 2 years old. And I made this 10-year-old team when I was 5. And in those days, that was the first travel team was 10. So the coach, I'll never forget, came over and knocked on the door and asked my dad for my birth certificate. So my dad gave it to him, and the coach, I remember like yesterday, said, "You're kidding, right?" My dad said, "No." He said, "He can't play on this team. He's only 5." So I remember I started crying. They wouldn't let me play that year. I had to wait another year. So I ended up starting the next year. I played on that team for 5 years, and that's kind of kick-started my career.
And it's also, too, the legend, or I don't know if it's a legend, but the backyard ice rink, which like that was in your backyard, and obviously snows a lot, and
Well, my grandparents, they moved here one from Belarus and one from Ukraine. And they bought this farm in 1926, and there was a river that went through the back of the farm, and that's where I originally started skating. And my dad would say, I got to do something different because I'm freezing standing out here all day watching them skate, because I was 3, 4 years old. So my dad decided to build this rink in the backyard, and the only reason he built it was so he could sit in the kitchen window and be warm, drink hot tea, and watch me skate. But it was always so funny because in those days it would start snowing around late November, early December, and my dad would decide, okay, it's a good time, it's cold enough, I can build the rink. And he would say to my mother, and it was always like clockwork, Phyllis, will you go over to the store and buy me a sprinkler head? And my mom would say, it's December. They're going to think I'm a moron. You go get your own sprinkler head. Because he would put the sprinkler head out there for 2 hours and let it go back and forth and then move it. And we always had the best rink in the whole city, outdoor rink. But that wasn't what made it unique. People used to stop at his house and they would knock on the door and say, Walter, we need to know what you're doing to your grass. How are you getting your grass so green? Now, my dad never did one thing in his yard, trust me. And he'd say, well, all you got to do is build a hockey rink and you have the best, thickest green grass you've ever had. so that's right.
How's Wayne doing? Give him a big round of applause.